Alright, here we go. Playing some 2 and 5 cent cash games on Bovada. Got 2 tables going here. Gonna see how that goes for us. Not playing that. So as I get more comfortable with the interface and setup and everything, I will start playing with more tables. This is the first time trying it with 2 and trying recording and keeping up with it. And I still want to be able to talk about hands. The people that I've talked to about making these videos like hearing the commentary. They like hearing reasoning. When a lot of people, um, when they play poker, they make decisions, right? They make, they make these decisions based on the cards they see and the reads they have on opponents. But it's hard to really get a lot of. Yeah, we have no interest in playing that. It's hard to get a real good second opinion on how you played, on how your reads right. Most people, man, they hear you tell a poker story and it's like, oh, here's another bad beat. Here's another whatever. Oh yeah, I would have played it the same way. But really, they weren't in the same spot. They weren't the ones sitting there with the set when the board paired. They weren't sure, were they getting maximum value. Did somebody else have a better hand? And so people want to see what somebody who's somewhat comfortable in his poker play and his analysis and his reads. Like what kind of goes through my head? What am I thinking? You know, you can turn the sound off, make your own decisions based on the hands that you see me play. But this is you just seeing real hands that I'm being dealt, real flops, real boards, and other players, and you can kind of see if I make the same um, move that you would. And a lot of people just want to see that, especially when it comes to tournaments. That's what most of my comments um, I get, talking to people at the casino is they would love to see me play through a MTT online. And I did one, I did live stream it, but I didn't record it. And I didn't have the settings on my Twitch to save the videos that I uploaded, save my broadcast. So, minor mistake. I ended up getting, I want to say 17th. Um, so, and it was, I don't know how many players, maybe 400 and some. It was a good long run. It was all right. Um, I don't even remember how many players there were. Yeah, I wish I'd saved it. Um, but it was good for some of my friends. Josh, old buddy of mine, he saw it and got to watch me play through to the end. But really, it was a good example, right, of just showing kind of what happens in a tournament. There were some great examples of needing to get lucky to survive. I ran pocket jacks into pocket aces once, and if I had lost there, like I will, 6 times, 7 times out of 10, I I didn't. I won, and I hit a jack, and I ended up cashing the tournament, and the guy with pocket aces didn't. Doesn't mean he made the correct play or the incorrect play, and it doesn't mean that my play was correct. I think at the time it was. I kind of put. I mean, you could argue that I put too much of my chip stack at risk to be shoehorned into making that call when he shoved, but um, my experience has been with poker online, you're going to run into pocket aces, and they're going to surprise you. If if you're always scared of somebody who's acting weird, having pocket aces, and you just can't call, you are missing so many opportunities to get your chip stack doubled. So many opportunities to catch some bluffs. And if you have a good hand, I'm not saying call with ace nine all the time when somebody shoves, especially if they can put your chip stack at risk. But you 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 have to be able to call some of these times because these guys, man, they will flip over some weird hands that they were just trying to take the pot down, trying to bluff that. And if you're just like, oh man, he could have pocket aces here, and you're not gonna call with pocket jacks, man, you're probably gonna, you know, miss out on some sweet spots. So in this hand, my general mentality with big pocket pairs is one overcard is not a reason to be scared. The chances of him calling from the big blind with an ace is pretty good, but yeah, see, he also does it with things like king 10, king 9s, maybe some baby pocket pairs, and he just wanted to see a flop. So, like I said, my general rule is one overcard on the board, it's fine to throw a C bet out there. If there's two overcards and you think that player is playing correctly and he probably called you with, Broadway cards or a good hand. So you think I'm getting pocket odds, or you think I'm getting pot odds here? I'm actually not. There's no reason to put in 13 more cents there. Um, so, but if you think they're playing correct and they have two overcards and the board is, somewhat dry except for the, a face card or two face cards. Um, one, you C bet. Two, you should just check back. If they just check to you, they didn't want to donk bet. They could be sitting there. That guy could have just easily had ace six, ace five, ace four, whatever, and he's not gonna bet, but he'll call. And if you, so that's fine to just check and see a turn, and then kind of see if he wants to bet, and then kind of make a decision from there. But one overcard, don't be scared, man. It's hard to make a pair in this game. It really is. And queens are still a pretty good pocket pair to have. Um, so hands like 4-5 suited are, they look real pretty, and you think, man, I can be like James Bond and um, Casino Royale. But acting this early, okay, heads up, yeah, I'm gonna raise. There's a good chance he just folds, and if we do end up playing the hand, we don't mind seeing a flop. There's a lot of flops that we like, like this. Um, I don't mind betting. The only time we get called is if he has a club in his hand. So, it's not like he's going to lead out if he doesn't have any clubs. So me checking there is just giving him a free card to see if, he trips up on his pocket pair or something. Which could be fine. But then, what if his pocket pair has a bigger club in his hand, right? What if he has pocket nines with a nine of clubs? And so not only do we give him a chance to hit another card, we also give him another chance to hit another club. Now we don't love our hand as much. So really, if we just bet there, sure, we're saying we have a club or a good or two clubs. Um, we really are just fine taking the pot down. We would like for him to call if he has just the king of clubs, but at least we're still in charge of the betting. So that was my reasoning for leading out there. Some people are like, geez, you just flopped a flush, dude. What the hell? Yeah, but think about it. Flopping a flush is good, but it's not flopping the nut flush good. All he needed was one face card in his hand with clubs, and then he's fine seeing some more cards. But with me being first to act, yeah, I don't mind betting there. We were the aggressor pre-flop. We're not going to let that go. Some people just look at it like, really, you had to raise pre-flop and you flop the suit you have? Not likely. And they call for a little bit, but that's just me rambling about a pretty standard hand, I think. But that's what you got to do, right? These hands, these are situations you come into in poker. There's a lot of situations you get into, and kind of having pre-programmed responses, you know, yes, it makes you a little bit predictable sometimes, but um, that's why you have a range. That's why you want to be balanced. You want sometimes I check that flop, sometimes I bet it. Do I bet the vast majority of the times? Yes. But what else do I bet on that flop? When I'm c betting, right? If I have ace king off and I raised him pre-flop and then that board comes out, I'm still betting. I'm still c betting. So that's kind of the idea of having a balanced range. Is sometimes I flop a monster. Sometimes I'm just c betting with air. Just ace king. Sometimes I flop a set. So the question is, can he figure out how often I'm flopping a set, how often I'm flopping the nuts, how often, whatever I do there, that I make that bet that he can really exploit it. Yeah. You want to have those scenarios in your head. You want to think, how many times do I see a flush? Just me and one other blind. What do I do when that happens? It's different in tournaments. It's different deep in tournaments. It's different in a cash game. It's different live versus online. There's so many different hands, so many different scenarios and positions, and so many different ways you can play them. What do you do against a super aggro on your left? What do you do against a super nit? What do you do against a drunk who's just pissing his money away? You gotta you gotta tailor your response to the situation, but it's just from experience. There's a lot of good books on poker. There really are. I think most of them are kind of just teaching you starting points. They're kind of teaching you general mentalities to have on starting hands, position, um, board states to an extent, but it is just nothing like experience. It's just nothing like just getting the feel for players, getting the feel for your table, knowing when you're in control. Sometimes you just feel like you're in control of the table. Your bets determine um, pot sizes. You kind of determine the flow. You know when people are gonna fold your raises. You know when people are gonna try to check raise you. You know when they're trying to steal your pots. And then sometimes you're just like, man, I'm kind of the dog. I don't really know what I'm doing. And you wanna minimize those situations. The more in control you feel at the table, the more confident you're gonna be in your decisions. And I think you make the more correct calls, the more confident you are in the decision. Right now, that might seem obvious, but you can be super confident that your set is good. But that really doesn't change the fact that somebody can still suck out on you. And sometimes people get married to the fact that they flopped a set and they don't realize that, well, wait a minute. If he flopped open ended straight flush draws, how many cards in the deck give him his hand versus how many keep my hand looking the best that it can be? And how much do I want to inflate this pot and let it get out of hand? Like look at this board right here. Like let's say 5, 10, 8 was the flop and we had pocket fives. If we flop the set and we check and somebody on our left, let's say he's just a super hyper aggro dude and he bets, maybe twice the pot. If we're like, God, we have a set time to max this value city town and just shove that 3-bet button on. Let's just see what, okay. That's kind of interesting. I'm going to make a mental note here on 4 and how we played those aces. That's something you really have to watch out for in online poker. It's kind of like set mining. It's just I call it monster mining. It's people who slow play aces and kings and sometimes queens pre-flop and then just mash the freaking flop or the turn. And it's obviously you see that in live too. I'm not saying it's an exclusive online thing that you've never seen before, but you just kind of want to make a mental note that you've seen somebody do it. And it's like, hey, he's capable of that kind of play. Um, so anyway, we flop a set and he's already putting money in the pot. It's like, why not just see the turn card? He's obviously calling your bet. Maybe sometimes you can shove all in and you just have $2,000 in front of you and he can't possibly call. Sure, that can be a move. But if you think he's a super aggro drunk, maybe he will just call. But then you think, why can't I just see the turn? See if another heart hits. See if the straight gets more complete. Does a 6 of hearts comes? Does a 9 of hearts come? Can I put him on a range that is now complete with this turn card before you really start inflating the pot? And I think a lot of times you'll see a turn card that you're like, man, I really don't like this turn card. And I'd rather keep this pot at a reasonable size for my hand. A set is still vulnerable, you know? there's these tiers of hands that I think a lot of players should get used to not memorizing. Everybody knows what hand speed was, but there are these tiers of hands that are basically, it's kind of how vulnerable they are. And a set is the top of the echelon of the hands before a straight, okay? And that means you can know you have the nuts on a flop with a set, right? If there's no three cards to a straight, if there's no three cards to a flush, if you have a set of the highest cards showing on the board, you know you have the nuts, right? But now as soon as the turn card comes, now there are straights and there are flushes or a board pair, but that changes your hand obviously. And so if it sometimes doesn't matter whether you flopped a set or you just flopped top pair. That turn card can give them their hand just as easily and still beat you because all they need is one card to give them the straight or the flush. And it kind of doesn't matter whether you're holding a set or just top pair. Oh, but wait a minute. I can hit a full house. Yes, we can always improve as well. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about what are the chances of us also getting lucky. The point is, how big do you want a pot when your hand can get beaten by them just getting their hand that they're already going to draw to? They're straight or they're flush. If the board comes out, you have top set, but there's two hearts out there, and you think this guy is only going to call you with a draw because he's kind of a nit, and here he is calling you. Doesn't mean you don't try to charge him. It doesn't mean you don't want to charge him, but sometimes you have to decide who is going to dictate how big this pot gets. If you know he's going to do it, then don't double down on it. Don't make it twice as hard. Sometimes you just gotta think, man, this guy's gonna call anyway. I might as well see if his hand improves. And that's just something you have to do sometimes. Tournament poker is a little bit different than cash game, especially early tournament, because you only flop sets so often. And early on in a tournament, building a huge chip stack against somebody who can't fold top pair or something like that or can't fold their draws, and some are willing to shove on their draws. The opportunity cost of folding and saying, yeah, I could lose to a flush draw there because they hit their flush, is not worth your hand could hold up and now you have twice the chips of everybody else at your table, right? So the opportunity cost you're giving up by folding that hand, you can always enter another tournament. There's always another day, but you're not every tournament you enter are you going to flop a set against somebody who's willing to get their whole chip stack in on a draw. So the times that you do get called and they miss, and now you double your chip stack, that equity, that how much value you get out of those chips, is worth far more than you playing a cash game and one night you flop a set against a guy who wants to draw to you on his flush or straight draw, and he wants to double your chip stack. That's just another night of poker. So sometimes it can vary, tournament versus cash game. Um, Obviously, this is just a long rant about, you know, what could be fairly obvious to a lot of people, but there's players out there who just wonder, how vulnerable is my hand? How far should I push it? But anyway, there's more. When it comes to, these tiers of hands, is you have the single pair, two pair, three of a kind, right? You can know how strong your hand is and know that nobody has a straight or a flush on that board. Now, the next thing that comes up is a straight and a flush. Okay? Usually, usually, if you hit your straight or you hit your flush, um, the likelihood of somebody else now trying to outdraw you is pretty slim. Sure, it happens. Sometimes if the board flops, there's two hearts out there, and you have two hearts in your hand, and then another heart comes. They could be holding the ace of hearts in their hand, so they could still be drawn to a flush, but now they only have one card left. We're gonna see a flop here. Now they only have one card left, so the chances of you being way better against their draw versus how you are on the flop and you hitting your flush are, they're pretty different. But your straight or flush, you're not really just worried about one card completing something. If they have a set and then the board pairs, yeah, they outdrew you. It's still possible, but it kind of goes the single pair, two pair, three of a kind tier. Then comes the straight and the flush tier, and then comes the full house tier. When you can put somebody in the full house tier, when you're trying to say is my full house good against their full house, it's like 95.9% you just get it in. It's very hard to give people full houses that beat you and quads that beat you. Um, obviously if the board is 4-4, 5 king king, and you have a 4, sure, you can give them a king pretty easily because um, we have to make this kind of big. There's a lot of money just sitting out here. It's a lot easier to give them a king and having a full house that beats you. We're not talking about that, but we're talking about you flopping. Like let's say let's say this was 10-10 and I flopped a 9. I'm not giving somebody 10-9 very often. We made the pot kind of big, so now we have to. I don't like this guy calling me because I've seen what he's done before, but the fact that he didn't raise me, I feel a little bit okay, but I'm kind of putting him on a 10 more often than not. To be honest, he could still be on a flush draw. I'm gonna bet though. People don't like to fold at the first C bet online. We're gonna go all in here. Yeah, that's surprise. What are we doing here? He called again. We'll check, see if he wants to put his last 59 cents in. He knows if he's beat. Yeah, it was a 10 there. I don't mind checking that back. Like I said, that's kind of what I put him on, and I didn't want to put any more money into it. He didn't love his kicker, but he was definitely calling if we put his last 59 cents in. So, um, yep. This hand. Oh yeah, we already. Anyway, everyone knows what hands beat what. People know what to look for on a board. They know when a straight is possible. They know when a flush is possible. But sometimes you got to remember just how vulnerable your hand is, in the tier that it's in. It's like all it takes, whether you have a set or top pair, is for them to hit their straight or their flush. Sometimes people just think, man, I have two pair right now. How can I be beaten? And it's like, well, man, they hit their flush just as easy against your two pair as they do against your one pair. You just have more counter outs that you can draw to still take the hand down. And now you're the one drawing. And now you're the one doing the math and figuring the pot odds, which you should be doing anyway, but I mean, that's besides the point. It's, you're still not drawing to too many cards most of the time when you're trying to get a full house. It's like, is your full house against. Ooh, do I feel like getting it in against these guys? Sometimes I like doing this, but, well, A, no, not because of this, but B, we're early position. I would never have called this here. For some reason, I was thinking the button was on my left until I actually looked at it. I've been kind of looking at this other screen too, and for some reason, I was thinking I was going to be I was the dealer button I had. Because with position, I probably wouldn't mind seeing a flop against just one better in a call, but then definitely not with this. What's going? Yeah, people are. So aces, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say aces, kings, one of those hands, and then this guy he looked like he was donking off with air. Um, it's just why wouldn't he have just shoved the first time? He obviously wasn't very in love with his hand. This guy best 25 cents, and then this guy just smooth calls if he really did have a nutty hand like aces or kings. Um, and then when this guy raises, this guy doesn't just shove. That's kind of the whole point of limping with aces or kings. So it just looked like he played that hand very badly and wasn't really in love with it and just wanted to bet this dude off the hand like he thought it was possible. So my guess was going to be aces, kings, one of those hands, and then just freaking donk hand over here. And I was right. But anyway, that's my reasoning, right? It's like what hand does he limp with, get raised, and then like basically min raises back? stupid hands. That's what he does it with. Because aces or kings, that'd be the worst play. I mean, like, at a minimum, if we're thinking he has a remote sense of poker play, like at a minimum tens, but then it's like, what are you putting this guy on? You really want to run your tens into his kings or queens? That's what you want to min raise? Yeah, not likely. So that hand was just played poorly by this gentleman here. Don't do that. Don't be C9. Don't be C9. When I'm playing these micro stakes, if I'm paying rather close attention to the table, like right now we're only playing two tables, so it's pretty easy to follow. I like going 4 times the big blind is usually my go-to number, and then you go up by one big blind for each limper. Um, so what do we think of this? We're kind of in position. Usually we would be worried about being 3-bet here, but he only has $1.69 behind, so I don't mind seeing a flop against that. Now we already know this guy here is capable of flopping 3 of a kind, so you got to keep that in your back pocket. I gotta be honest. What do I think he has here? Often nothing good. He could have jacks or queens, and our ace jack we could still have outs. Still don't know what this guy's gonna do. See, this guy still has like king jack, king queen in his range, so I think he might call anyway. And if he doesn't, then it's just not worth it. Yeah. Okay. See, like I said, this guy has flopping trips in his range. Of course, I was just kidding. That's dumb luck, but yeah, I didn't like that we didn't know what he was gonna do, and he just easily had a king in his range that he wouldn't fold, let alone you know number 8 over here, lucky 8, but flop 3 of a kind again. Cute. I would have won if I had your cards too, number 4. Um. Anyway, we got off kind of easy with that. We're gonna up our, bump our chip stack back up here. We're full in this hand. We're getting a little low, so we're gonna bump back up to 5. As far as hands go, hasn't really been anything too out of line. I think you saw pretty much how I'm gonna act in these situations pretty well. I haven't made any laser reads on anybody or made a move just because I thought they were getting out of line. It's been pretty standard, I think. I guess a few of you guys who don't really know Poker Online that well yet, you might have been a little bit confused by my shove on this hand when I had ace queen and I just had top pair and this guy shoved as well. He called and also had ace queen. Honestly, it's kind of a defense mechanism against people who are capable of betting you off hands. When you've played enough poker online, you kind of get used to that behavior and you don't want to be too vulnerable to it. And sometimes if people just want to sit and mess around and try to min raise or shove too often or just over represent their hand, sometimes you just gotta nip that in the bud and be like, look, man, I flop top pair, I raise pre-flop, I'm supposed to have the best hand here, I still think I do. Call me if you want. If you're just playing piddly winky stinky dinks with these guys, they're just gonna get too aggressive on you and can kind of bet you off of hands that you should be able to win. So I felt like I was ahead a vast majority of the time there, and turns out he just also had the same hand I did. So not what I wanted to see, but definitely, definitely not too bad to just chop it. Could have been much worse. But you'll just get used to those kind of spots. If we were obviously if this was a live like 1-2 no limit game, and I had $200 in front of me, I would not have bet $12, been raised to $24, and just shoved my whole chip stack in and being like, I hope my top pair is good. That's just nobody else can act. I don't mind seeing a flop for 5 more cents here. So we not in love with his hand. So anyway, yeah, that's a totally different online play versus something that you would do live. That would never be a profitable live move. 34 cents. I kind of want to sniff this guy up a little bit here. I'm kind of curious what he has and what he's playing with. This is my favorite hand in poker, Queen Ten of Spades. I will play that hand all the time, every time. We're a little early, so I don't mind opening for a little bit more. See, what is this guy doing? This feels like a draw, but even if it was, he hit it. But man, I am so tempted to call this now that I have a pair even. But he just easily just has a king here. I kind of bought this information. Now I know he's willing to do this. $1 to a pot of 97 cents. Yeah, we'll fold. We'll let him have it. Nice hand. So these guys are gonna let them have the action a little bit. Anyway, what I wanted to do there is I'm kind of trying to get a read a little bit on number 6 there. I'm not playing this game here against somebody who has just a weak kicker with their ace and doesn't want to bet it. I'm not just gonna lead out and let them smooth call and get a 10-cent bet into $2 and a min raise. I don't like either of those plays, but I'm gonna call. And then we're just gonna check it back. Yeah, a 5-cent bait. Like, this is one of those bets that, yeah, we're paying him off for his value, but we also get to see his hand. Thanks, dude. Yeah, there's like no version of us folding that folding that hand. Some people say, "Oh, value bets. I got the most value I could get out of you. What a donkey. What a sucker." No, I still get to see your hand, and it's such a small investment to just see what you played that hand with. And we knew the previous 9 was just Donkville. We don't know if that was the same player that sat back down. That one got up, and actually it had been less than 5 minutes when this guy sat down, so it couldn't be the same guy. But still, obviously, if it was a live game, you could see the same person sit down. You could put him on it again. This time I'm not calling the last 5 cents. 5 Jack offsuit is different than 8-10. It really is. There's not very many flops with 5. Like even this, you don't love this hand. So anyway, yeah, he has Jack 3. He hit his pair on the turn, right? And so when freaking 8 seat here, I don't have a name for him, leads out and this guy min raises, I'm not folding to that. I still have showdown value. I still have potentially the best hand, and that's just such a small bet into the pot that I don't mind seeing that. And then 5 cents on the river. There's zero chance of me ever folding his hand. Well, his hand. It's not that I would call if his hand was face up because obviously, I know I'm beat at that point and I got to see his hand. But let's say he just flipped over one of his cards, right? And it was an ace. I would still pay the 5 cents to see his other card. I already know I'm beat. I already know I'm losing that hand. Well, see, now we like the board. I already know I'm losing that hand, but I still want to see that other card. I want to see what he made the call with pre-flop. Because when this guy raised my bet pre-flop, and then this guy called, I want to know what he was calling with. Was he doing it with ace king, or was he doing it with ace 6? You know? Oh yeah, still would have lost. See? And then we would hate our hand again. But yeah, that's just a silly bet for him to make, on the assumption that he was going to get us to fold. I don't know if he thought he was just value betting us because we missed our flush draw and we were going to see if we'd call with king high. I don't know. excuse me, that very thin value bet is just, that's going to get called every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So anyway, I know a lot of what I'm saying is pretty standard for players who have been around this game for a long time. That's not what most of this conversation is for. This is mostly for people who haven't been in these spots and haven't seen online gambling, haven't seen online poker. They want to see what it's like, what you're up against. These are micro stakes. There is a difference between playing 2 and 5 cents and playing $1 $2, and there's a difference between playing $1 $2 and playing 20 40 or 25 50 or whatever. And a lot of you guys know this, but what I'm doing now, some of these plays that I'm making, you probably wouldn't make even at 1 2. Um, your chip stacks are so much more valuable at that point. There's still lunatics. There's still people who are just shoving their chip stack in with air or some crazy draw and just hoping they can take the pot down, not get called. And when you do call them, you're just like, wow, really? You shove with that? But it's a little bit thinner than, so another 9 up here. It's good. So you still have to be aware of that, but this is just a very different game than the higher stakes. And we'll move up the higher stakes in this channel. I definitely will play some 1 2. This channel is also going to be a lot of tournaments once I start playing some of them, so we can basically have an MTT going while playing 2 4 maybe cash games. But for right now, I'm just kind of getting used to this setup still and figuring out how many tables I want to play at a time, what I can bounce back and forth between, how to set up my recorder and all that to have good resolution and see everything. Plus, I get less time to talk about hands if I'm playing. If I'm playing an MTT and 4 cash games, there's just not going to be a lot of talking because it's like, yeah, I can make some statements about my play, but by the time I make a move on one table, I'm looking at a couple moves or a shove all in that somebody made on another table. I want to see who made it, what cards they have, and then on my other table, I'm sitting there with Jack 10 suited on the button and deciding whether I want to make that call. So I get to talk a lot less. So, um, you'll be prepared for that. But and I would like this channel to be talking and commentary. Wow, that was an interesting hand. So hopefully this table doesn't dry up. I don't want to have to switch tables again. And now we got 3 of a kinds with 7s over here. The question is, would my ace high be good? Not after that, but yeah, we don't want to see that. Yeah, there's the jack. 7. Yeah. Well, so we already lose with the jack, but is that 7? But, it's hard to beat quads in this game, to be honest. And on that board, it would be impossible. So sometimes I like to smooth call with medium pocket pairs. Sometimes I like to raise with them. That's being balanced, Don't let them have a dead read on you. You can let them pick up a read. You can let them sniff up some things about your play. Like it's good to know that, or it's good to have the table image that you won't fold pocket aces pre-flop. That's a good image. Boy, I don't know what it is, but lately 4-8 suited for me, as I will fold very often at the time. has just seen some wicked flops sometimes. I've just been like, wow, really? Oh, and then if we have this hand over here, we have a full house on this board. But yeah, see, we would have had our straight 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, with pocket aces, don't want to let them know that you will fold them. I don't. I was about to make the raise there. Sometimes I do like the limp shove strategy against certain players, and I haven't been this table long enough to know really who I would try to pull that off against on. But this table has been pretty good about isolating players and kind of getting down to just a couple. So I feel like somebody else will do that work for me, and then I'll just come over the top and get his heads up. That's just such early position for me to make that move. I would love it if you shoved there. Well, sometimes you play aces and they don't work out for you. We're still gonna smash this flop because the chances of somebody having us beat on this board are probably 2%. That's some 2% milk action. So right now the only thing calling us is a flush draw is my guess. So we're gonna charge the heck out of him. We're gonna make him look silly for having called us with his flush draw. And if he has a set, he was not folding pre-flop. He was probably going to be the one person that called us. So, yeah, whatever. But I have a feeling he's just got a flush draw here. And oh yes, and please let you have hit your king. So we're gonna pot this. We're basically going for maximum value. This guy calls with ace 10. Whatever. Get out of here. And then we'll just pick up queens the next hand. Um. So anyway, we could have got punished there for slow playing aces, but one of the things with poker is you can be comfortable slow playing hands if you know not to marry yourself to them, right? If that board had been super wet and there would have been a bet and a re-raise, we'd have to have played that totally differently. But that was a pretty easy board for us to be ahead on, and we don't mind. Sometimes it's good to see what your post flop skill is like. Um, so bet raise, and we're gonna go ahead and make sure this is heads up. And we already know this guy kind of likes to get chips in, so maybe we'll get the rest of a stack here. Okay, we love the shove from this guy. We won't love the shove from this guy, though. That represents way more strength because he knows that we raise over top, so he knows we have premium. And then when this guy shoves, if this guy comes over the top, that's kind of scary. I don't, I mean, I know I'm going to call, but yeah, so I would call this guy if he did shove there, but that's just one of those spots. I would not have been happy with that hand if he shoved over the top. Would I've called probably 4 out of 5 times? Yes. But I did not like that. So that's something you gotta, most of you know this. I'm not saying this is me making an insane observation, but you really got to be aware of what did he have there? What did this guy have here that he wanted to raise this guy, and then he sees me come over the top for a very large bet, which just represents a ton of strength. And then this guy is shoving, which he already doesn't really know if he had him beat, but he shoved over top of my strength. What's this guy really have there? Pretty much aces and kings. That's really it. Now I know this is online poker, but this guy. Hang on 1 second. Do I like ace 8 offsuit on the button? No. And we also don't like 9-6 offsuit. And while we have seen a lot of chips come out of this guy's corner, we haven't seen him get out of the line making the action, right? We haven't seen him make some donk shove and end up showing 4-6 offsuit, so they would just, if he shoved over top, man, we would not have liked our hand very much. Not at all. Probably the best we could hope for is for both of them to have ace king, and then they're just blocking each other's outs, and then we'd feel kind of confident. But there's not very many hands that he could turn over that we feel confident there. We were glad that he folded, but we had too much in the pot once this guy shoved. We had $1 in, he shoved for 2 more, and if this guy shoved all in for 3, the best thing would be if he just smooth called. That would be even easier for us. But if he came over the top, that's just only $2 more for us for a chance to win 4.5 more. So yeah, we would have called and just said Well, I hope that you guys both have shit ass cards. Well, Texas held them. This is it. What's been going on lately? Something to talk about. Not that anybody comes to this channel for my political or. Don't worry, I'm not going to start talking about Trump or Clinton, but I just mean like world politics, like what's going on in the world right now. North Korea's getting flooded. For those of you who haven't seen that, and I don't know how much y'all know about like foreign relations and how North Korea is, but they kind of because of their illustrious Kim Jong Un, they're kind of on their own for the most part. They kind of don't ask for help very often. They do ask for help, but it's not very often. It's usually, yeah, we're gonna handle this, and we definitely don't need your aid until we do need it. But for them to be asking for help, they're probably in some deep shit. And when you get a number right that says like hundreds of thousands dislocated in flooding in North Korea, it's like, where do those numbers come from? If he shoves here, we're gonna call. Okay, he didn't shove. Because there's just way too many times that our aces just get there. Some people just like to donk their chip stacks off. Yeah, we flop on top here. We're definitely calling again, and we hope Jesus has one diamond in his hand. Yeah, let's charge him a little bit because now he doesn't like because he doesn't have an ace, so he does not like seeing another ace out there. Okay, we'll just take the hand down. That's fine. He could have just had one diamond in his hand, and we're gonna charge him to see that river card to see if he can hit his last diamond. But yeah, that was just way too easy of a blind versus blind hand. That was just super easy. Come on, Ignition. Give me something harder. I want to talk to these guys. Put me in a spot. Put me in a spot where I have to hit that timer button. Give me some more time. I don't know. It's too standard. Like, why couldn't I be in this hand? Why couldn't I be the blind over here? Is my 9 still good? When there's 2 6s and 4 to a flush and a straight possibility, and is my 9 good? See, that's the hand I want to be talking about. But I wouldn't have gotten myself into that spot very often. 13 more cents with deuce 5 suited. So let me tell you a story about a guy who won with deuce 5 suited. It wasn't me. So yeah, so the straight. You know, wow, they both had the straight. Nobody, gosh, y'all are so boring. So boring. Why do they both have to have the same hand? But it's queen 10. I do love they had queen 10. However, neither of them were suited, so they really don't know what they're doing. Queen 10 is only has magical powers. A, if it loves you, and B, if it's suited. Playing queen 10 offsuit is just the donkiest of donk moves, and I don't ever recommend it. But if you get queen 10 suited, especially spades, man, you have to play that hand. You have to play it, and you have to love it. And alright, so now we've seen this dude get a little bit crazy. Little bit crazy up here. So, kind of thinking he's a little tilted. He's kind of been losing a good number of hands, and the one time it looked like he really had like a nutty hand, nobody called him. So I don't know if you all noticed that, but it's like I don't think I think he just rebought, you know. But I'm guessing he's a little tilted, and sometimes you can take advantage of that. Yeah, we're gonna call here on the button with a 5 for 5 for 2 5s. But yeah, so we need to keep an eye on that on a spot where we might be able to squeeze a little bit of chips out of him because he's making some incorrect moves. So let's see. Not a 5, not a 5, and not a 5. We do have 4 odd cards, and if 2 odds make it even, then do 4 odds make it. So there's a chance he just flopped the flush draw, and he just wanted to bet it because betting out this kind of early kind of seems a little bit weird. But I'm not gonna risk it. There's not enough in the pot. There's 24 cents in the pot. So basically, I'm saying I'm gonna outplay you for that 24 cents and the fact that what if he does? What if he does have ace nine? Great. Now we're literally drawing to our two outs. So I just didn't like that spot. It's 24 cents. That's all we're playing for. You need to make correct moves in online poker regardless of the stakes. I mean, even if I'm playing micros right now, I'm still not trying to piss money away. But you kind of have to ask yourself, is this hand worth playing? Is it worth me mind gaming this dude over 24 cents? Like he literally potted that hand. And it's like, is my third best pair any good anymore? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. If he had made 10 cents, 100% would have called. 100%. But he's going to pot it. I'll let him have it. You can let people bet you off hands. What did he have there? We don't know. We could have been beat. He could have just had a draw. But he could have had a set. It's just pick your spots. Decide what pots are worth fighting over. If somehow we had gotten that pot to be $1 pre-flop, and let's say we had pocket nines, and there was, the hand, the board texture looked a little bit more favorable. We might have wanted to fight one C bet. We might have been like, sure, I'll see what's going on, but it's 25 cents, not worth it. Excuse me while I yawn. So I'm not gonna play too much longer. This is pretty much the length of videos that I'm gonna be making for a little while. It's just nice little sample size. We're up, right? We're positive. We had to rebuy a little bit down here. What, $1.30 I think. But we're up 3.30 here, and we're up $1.50 here, so we're up. And if I had some feeling that a table was super juicy, I would not want to get up while I'm ahead while I have an $8 chip stack, because you can call off some of these guys a lot easier and stuff. But I'm not here to, like, this is not how I make my living. I don't grind a living playing 2 5 cents no limit. These are kind of shows for you guys. This is real money though, don't get me wrong, but this is more kind of a tutorial, basically saying, look, this is how to, if you play the same hands I do in the same spots I do, and you make the same equity moves that I do, the way I've done in these videos, then as you can see, over time, you will be positive. That is the point of these videos. I'm not saying you're going to make a killing. I'm not saying, boy, plan your round the world cruise trip because you learned in a 40-minute video how to win 2 and 5 cent poker online. But you've at least seen what the hands look like, what the players look like, and what some of your moves look like. So we're going to go ahead and turn off the auto post. So basically what that means is when the dealer button is right here and it goes to post the small and the big blind, it won't post our big blind. We will sit out. Well, we won't automatically sit out. It actually asks us if we want to post, so we can hit this. And now we will sit out. And then that's when we'll end the video when both the tables are, we're out of the blinds. Because basically right now, so for those of you who don't know, right now we're playing for free, right? It doesn't cost me anything to get dealt 2 cards. I can get pocket queens here and pocket aces here and end the night with another $2. But I can also get 4-10 offsuit again and just be like, well, whatever. But it doesn't cost me anything. So, you don't mind seeing a couple more hands. Um, so that's an easy fold, and we're gonna make a little move here. See what happens. So we'll leave this one running while we play this hand, and then we'll be done. Right, that'll be the last hand. This will be. Eights are pretty good. I hate playing early position. I hate playing out, early spots. I hate playing out of position, but eights is still a decent hand. It's pretty easy to figure out if you're ahead with pocket eights. It really is. Not quite as easy as it is with pocket twos, but with pocket eights, you're usually able to solve that problem. So now again, two overcards. Um, if I knew that this guy was a little bit better player, I might make a move there. Oh God, yeah. See, now it's just so certain that he hit this flop in some way that I'm not putting any more chips into it. But now I have a straight draw, but the straight draw makes us chop. So now my only way of winning is with an eight. That's really my only way of winning, unless he just has a flush draw. But it's 20 cents and a 43. I'm just gonna let him take it. There's just no. It's just dumb for me to call it. He 100% had one of those cards out there and had me beat. Could I have re-raised and try to bet him off the pot? Yes, because he could just easily just have a jack there or something, or a king, and he doesn't like his kicker. So I could have, played the games there and tried to re-raise him. But what if he did flop a straight? What if he did turn a straight? It's just, it's not necessary to play over that small of a pot. You don't need to get the mind games in. You don't need to blow your chip stack off. Just look, we're still up for the night. We're still fine. We could have come over the top, raised him 70 cents, and then he shoved all in, and then we're just sitting there going like, why did we even do that? And what? We could just hope that we hit the magic eight on the river, and he didn't have a straight or a flush already. So yeah, no thank you. So anyway, that's it for this video. Um, I should be recording some more this week, and we'll upload them as soon as I can. So later.